Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lazy Entrepreneur. I'm Sam and I've got a special episode here. We've got someone who I've met here in Chiang Mai, Buddy Rathmell. Sorry, I should have asked. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, perfect.
Buddy Rathmell. And some of you have been asking, do I interview a few digital nomads, people we meet on these travels, people who are interesting or inspiring, and I haven't yet met anyone as inspiring as Buddy, so I thought it'd be really good to come and get on here. And I don't want to ruin anything about him by giving a bad introduction to him. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass it straight over to Buddy and ask him to introduce himself and tell us a bit about him and what brings him to Chiang Mai.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sam. I came here actually to do anti-human trafficking work. We started an organization called Stop Slavery, and we're working here, India, Cambodia, but this is just a great place to live, like family-wise, so we ended up here. By way of intro, I kind of have always grown up traveling. My dad was in the military, so I spent, my whole childhood. I think I'd visited 20 countries and 20 U.S. states by the time I was 18.
Wow. So we started with, you came here for human trafficking.
Yeah.
But that's slightly changed now, hasn't it? Now you've been here a while. What happened?
Yeah, so, it was like anything in life, way harder than I thought once we actually got here. And our goal was to do capacity building with the Thai police. So we brought in equipment. We would do like button cams and, cameras in bags and satchels and hidden cameras in different places to see people going in and out, taking photos, to get people, but then training too, and then bringing in out like foreign investigators that could work here. In some ways, it's like higher highs and lower lows than even the entrepreneurship journey, and a lot more lows, honestly, and just the heartache, because even when someone comes out of it, it's often a long road for them back up. And it was pretty heavy at times, especially when there were cases that we couldn't prosecute on. But tons of good cases, tons of prosecutions. One time we were actually doing, downtown in the city, the police here in Chiang Mai had asked me to do some reconnaissance over a place before they had their own drones and that kind of stuff. And so I went out. It was actually my first time on a case with a drone, and there was a facility that they were going to do in 2 days' time, a raid on. And so I went over, and actually with that drone, I had to be near it. So I walked down the street while I was filming the thing, and then ended up at the other side and realized I had forgotten to press record. And so I go to look at the footage, and it's just not there. And I just was like, oh man, I can't believe it. So I waited about 10 minutes, and then I came back over and did get the footage that time. But then we found out that night they had closed down, and I thought, great. This was one of the first times the cop had actually asked me to be directly involved with it. And I was like, I've totally ruined it. But thankfully they ended up opening up the next evening. And then 2 days later for the raid, they were back open, and the police were able to go in and get him, get the person that they needed to get. On the positive side, things have come so far. It was almost exactly 10 years and 1 month ago that I first came to Chiang Mai for anti-trafficking work, and things have come so far. The level of the police and the work that they do, the equipment that they have, the support of the larger Thai government has improved tremendously. And there's been other forces at work, like America has this thing called the TIP report, where they rate other countries, and and that has motivated the Thais a little bit. And even actually just in the last few weeks, there's some sanctions that the world is kind of putting on the fishing industry of different countries, and I think that's going to continue to move things in a good direction as well. So
Nice. So you've been doing that for about 10 years, but now you're kind of starting to move into online business.
Yeah.
And actually a bit more of a traditional digital nomad, what we might consider a digital nomad. Tell us a little about that and how you ended up doing that transition.
Sure. So I've always been interested in business, like a lot of entrepreneurs had, things when I was a kid, and thinking along those lines. It was actually when I was traveling and hitchhiking across the U.S. after high school that I just had a lot of crazy experiences and thought maybe I should do something more than just going into business at the time. I thought, doing some kind of a service for other people or whatever. I've since learned business can actually be a service to other people. And that's really one of the ways that we can make the world a better place. But I ended up going and studying to be a youth pastor. But all during that time, I was always, dabbling a little bit online. I think I made my first money online in 2003 with Netflix affiliate courses, and then did some Amazon affiliate stuff in the last few years, and buying and selling domain names since the 90s, and just different things. I was always totally on the side, though, always just side projects. And then after losing about $250,000 in 2 physical businesses,
Wow.
I was like, this was crazy. Like, I know all about online business. Why did I spend this much money in physical businesses? And yeah, just in hindsight, ludicrous. So I went the total other extreme, and I was like, how could I start a business that would help people and that could also help other people to start a business that costs almost no money, that provides huge value, and doesn't have the risk of like losing all this money, and you could kind of do anywhere in the world. And so that's how I came up with this idea of Please Kick My Butt, which is the name of the business, and the URL, pleasekickmybutt.com. And the idea was for me to help entrepreneurs actually execute, because so many things, it's the lack of execution that actually prevents the success, and I'm sure you found is you just get out there and do it, like things come together, you learn as you're doing it. But when you just sit back and research and you're just learning and you're just, listening to podcasts is great, listening to audio is great. I do it all the time. But if all you do is listen and learn and you don't execute, you're not going to have a business. For my own self, I created some spreadsheet and I had some daily accountability with a person and weekly coaching. And I thought, why don't I do this for others? So Please Kick My Butt is all about daily accountability. You have 3 big tasks to move your business forward every day. And we're checking in on you. Are you actually doing that? And then the weekly group coaching of like, where are you stuck? What do you need to do? What's next? Is there marketing or this, whatever it is around your business that you need to think through. You have a tribe of 10 to 12 to 15 other entrepreneurs that have been in the trenches. They're doing it. And, together this tribe is kind of helping you to do what you need to get done.
Awesome. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think maybe the first ever episode on The Lazy Entrepreneur was on something like Just Get On With It.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact title, but
yeah,
did a few episodes about that. But before I ask you a bit more about that business,
sure.
Just have interest. What were the 2 businesses that lost $250,000?
Yeah, so they were escape rooms, and
escape rooms.
We had built really great ones. In fact, we were with the largest franchisor of them at the time in 2015 and 16.
Here in Chiang Mai?
One was in Chiang Mai and one was in Siem Reap, Cambodia.
Oh, wow.
And so like the one in Chiang Mai, we had a Thai artist do like a life-size elephant glow in the dark. Like, so as you went in that room and turned off the lights, there were clues in the elephant, and they all had multiple rooms and hidden doors. And so we just spent a ton of money, everyone absolutely loved it. Like the people that would come through absolutely loved it. But like a lot of businesses that crash and burn, our expenses were just so much greater than our income. But the ones in Cambodia, we had multiple levels and elevators that you would pull yourself up with your own hands, and water flowing through them. And just, they were like literally some of the very best escape rooms in the whole world. So it was fun. It was a great business. People loved it, loved hanging out with the people that were there. Just in each location, I had the prime real estate in the city and most rent. And we built 6 rooms in Cambodia, 8 in Chiang Mai. And the biggest lesson I have for entrepreneurs out of that was there's actually a proverb that talks about looking well into a matter before you jump in. And I thought, well, we're going to be focusing on tourists. So I talked to people in Australia and Europe and America, and it was going great. Well, if I had called other ones in Asia, which I did halfway through, And as soon as I called like 10 other ones in Asia, I was like, I'm totally hosed. Like all of those have since gone under. Even one that was doing really well at the time in Singapore, like 30 other people came in and he closed down as well. But that idea of looking well into a matter, like, okay, if you want to start a podcast, talk to 10 people that are doing it. What could you learn from them? What works, what doesn't, how long is it going to take? But whatever business you want to get into, I'd encourage you to like talk to people that are doing it. Cause that was, I talked to people that were doing it, but I wasn't specific enough. I didn't look deeply enough into it. So yeah, I mean, that still hurts today.
Yeah, that balance of just do it,
Yeah.
which has a lot of value when you're starting a blog or a podcast and you've invested a total of $100.
Yeah.
It's very different when you're taking on investment and you're signing up to 5-year leases and you're starting like a really serious
Yeah.
business, which you can't do in a bootstrap type of way.
Right. I actually, and maybe that's actually a good lesson as well. My original plan before I found out about this franchise was to do it on my own, basically bootstrapped. I could have done it out of my own cash flow from my, from running the salary I get from running the nonprofit. It was gonna cost like less than $1,000 a month. We were gonna do a small room, small staff, just 1 or 2 rooms. So again, if I had bootstrapped it, I would have been fine, right? Like I actually would have been making enough money to pay the bills, and it would have been a side hustle. It would have never made me the 20s, thousands a month I was hoping for each location. Yeah, so maybe bootstrapping would have saved me. It definitely would have saved me. But there's definitely a balance. There's a quote from Vern Harnish where he says, "Success belongs to those who have 2 attributes: an insatiable desire to learn and an unquenchable bias for action." And I think great entrepreneurs have both of those characteristics.
Yeah, that's a really good quote. Yeah, I had a similar experience I started a coffee shop.
Oh, wow.
Similar thing, raised a bunch of money. Turned out I didn't know anything about running a coffee shop. Didn't do any real research beforehand.
Right.
Just thought I'd just go and do it. I thought I had a little niche, a bit like what you're saying about targeting expats. So
Yeah.
the local economics
Yeah.
don't matter because
Right.
you've got a different target market. That's kind of my thoughts as well. Didn't really work out as well. And then now, pretty much every business I've started since has been very much bootstrapped.
Yeah.
And started with an amount that I know I can scale up or scale down depending. And where if it all completely failed,
Yeah.
doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of the tourist industry having a different economics to the locals, something I'm quite interested in. Because I've noticed everywhere I've been, artisan coffee costs the same amount.
Yeah.
So running a coffee shop in London, where I'm charging £2.50 for a flat white,
Yeah.
where I'm paying London rent, I'm paying London salaries,
Yeah.
and then I come to Canggu in Bali or Chiang Mai in Thailand, and it's still £2.50 for a flat
Yeah.
white, but they're paying local wages and they're paying local
Yeah.
rent. It's got me thinking
Yeah. Totally.
about that. Anyway, that's an aside. Let's come back to your please kick my butt.
Yeah.
So you talked a little about where you got the idea from. So how does it work in terms of the money side of it?
Yeah.
How do you make your money? Is it going well?
Yeah, so we're actually just in the beta launch right now. We're just starting up. For your listeners, it'll be $99 a month. We're eventually going to raise it to $297, but we want to get some case studies and just some things going. So far, the clients are in my warm market. We'll have just started marketing as this podcast hits. So for any, people that are interested, the piece that I don't know anyone else that's doing is the daily accountability. Like, are you actually getting things done? And you actually have to write down what you're getting done. So you can't sandbag and say, oh, I posted 2 links today. It's like, no, are you really moving your business forward? You can take a day off. That's great. Or a week off if you're traveling or whatever. I'll be in Cambodia the next 3 days. I'm not going to get a ton done while I'm there. I'll do a little bit. But are you really moving things forward? And that's what it's all about. The desire is for people to be able to make a living in about 15 hours a week and then be able to do whatever else they want. And this is like not just even actually a digital nomad income, but a upper middle class US income in about 15 hours a week. And then they're free to do the mission. If their mission is helping people, great. But if they want to come and live in Thailand and help orphans or they want to go to where there's tragedies and be involved and do those kind of things, that they have the time freedom and the money freedom to do those kind of things. So that was part of the genesis of this business idea.
Yeah, that accountability stuff is I find really helpful. It's that concept of don't break the chain.
Yeah.
That if you're doing a little bit of something every day,
Yeah.
and you build that as a habit.
Yeah.
Whereas if you break that chain, you have a day off, that can easily run into 3 days or a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
For writing a book I'm doing at the moment, I did the novel in a month throughout November.
Oh, cool. In November.
Yeah, where you have to do...
Yeah, how did it go?
1,700 words. So the problem is I'd started before starting the month.
Yeah.
And then I managed to finish the book in the first 15 days, I think.
Oh, okay.
So I just stopped then.
Yeah.
And I've had a little break now, and I'm going to go back and do all the editing.
Oh, cool.
But it really helped. It basically, doubled my word count in that time. And it was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that really useful.
Yeah, and different people operate. Like, I've done a lot of work in, reading psychology. I administer a high-end personality test called the Berkman. And some people operate more like this, like a rocket. And they're better if they do a week at something and then they take a week off. And other people kind of operate better if they're like, I'm more like a locomotive, and just every day I'm doing 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours. And they just can keep going on all the, for the next 3 years. But however you're wired to operate, you got to keep, if you're a rocket, then make sure you're creating those times to be a rocket. And I think it's more effective in general if you can operate like a locomotive and do the, like the Jerry Seinfeld, don't break the chain of writing a joke.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you can get done.
Absolutely.
Once like the years start racking up of that. Yeah. You are effectively a life coach.
Yeah.
That term has some pretty negative connotations about it. Life coaches without life experience. You see, 21-year-olds for $1,000 a month, they'll life coach you.
Yeah.
And they haven't had any life experience yet.
Right.
Or business coaches who've never run a business.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I had you on is I don't think you're one of those people.
Yeah.
As we've heard, you've got quite a bit of life experience.
Yeah.
But talk to me a little bit about, how you see that industry of life coaching and what your competitors are doing that you think is good or bad.
Yeah, sure. So I've always called myself a leadership coach, and a lot of that has been because I've been working either with the leaders of organizations or leaders of companies. I've done very little life coaching as far as life stuff, although there's often overlap, right? Like I'll be talking to a leader. In fact, one of the testimonies on my website is a leader who, as we were talking, realized he needed to pick up and move his house. Like, he moved to the ocean instead of living in the city 10 minutes from the ocean. And so it was leadership coaching, but it bled over into his life. I think there's, like you said, anyone can call themselves a life coach. I've been certified. I don't think certification actually matters. I think it's really, do you have the skills? And so a lot of times someone is like, I'll be a life coach. But really what a coach is doing is they're drawing something out of you. And they're helping you. There's another proverb that says, the purposes of a man's heart are deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. And so what is most effective for a coach is not that they're telling you, hey, do this, do this, do that. It's they're kind of drawing out of you and going, hey, Sam, what do you love about your life right now? What don't you love? Okay, you don't love this. What do you need to change? And what are you actually going to change? What are you going to do? How are you going to make sure that you do it? Are you taking care of Emma? What are her desires? How do those mesh together? And then like drawing you out. And it's really, I know from my own life, I look back and it's really been questions. When someone asks me a question that kind of penetrates to my heart, that has changed me way more than somebody telling me something, right? Like we can find information everywhere, but it's when somebody is able to draw, and that's a skill that takes practice that you gain over time. And then, so I think a lot of times a life coach will be like, they'll ask a couple questions, they'll give you a little bit of advice, and you might leave kind of feeling like, what? That wasn't that great. But if they're asking you questions, leading you to the desired life that you want to have and the way that you want to get there. And one of the things that I find as a coach that I've really helped people a lot is giving them agency to to believe that they can make the changes that they want to believe. I just saw a lady 2 days ago, and a couple years ago, first time we met, we were at a lunch, and she went to my wife that day and said, "Your husband changed my life today at lunch." And so my wife came home and told me this, and I was like, "Oh, really?" We were just having a conversation, like, how did I change your life? And so I went and asked her, and I said, I just was like, what did I say, or what was it? And she was like, "You just helped me to see that I really could do." And so the funny thing is, she actually became a life coach, and she's doing it now. She's working for an organization. It took her, she had to get certified. She had to do a lot of free coaching, and she was naturally gifted at it. And now that's her life. Like, she's working 12 to 20 hours a week as a life coach, and she's enjoying it. And she's actually really good. I've had some of my students actually go to her instead of myself, because I have a limited number of hours that I want to do it. And then I think the last piece is, a lot of coaches don't really keep people accountable. Like, if you can just come back every week and go, "Oh, I didn't do that, I didn't do this," and a good coach is going to ramp up the accountability, the consequences. They're going to help you figure out what's your best pathway to being effective and productive and those kind of things.
So for the $99 a month to begin with, what would I get as an entrepreneur, as a digital nomad?
Yeah. So there's a weekly group call with the small group or tribe that you're a part of, 10 to 15 people. And different people will say, "Hey, I want to talk about this issue in my business today." Probably 3 in a 1-hour call, same time every week. And then that daily accountability that I talked about, every person is filling in the 3 most important things that they're going to get done, and they're marking them at the end of the day in their review, green or red. Did they get them done? Or yellow? Like, actually, so this podcast got bumped because of the host of the podcast. So on Tuesday, I marked this yellow, and I, moved the task to Friday and just said, "While we're waiting, life happens," right? Like, even the highest performers get about 75 to 80% of their stuff done because life happens. But we want to make sure that we're in the 75 to 80%, right? We don't want to be in the 10% getting stuff done. Speed to execution is huge for entrepreneurs. So we're making sure that you're getting things done. And then different training, depending on what people are asking for, how to get clients, how to market my business, how to be productive, how to lead, where we'll do live Zoom training where people can do Q&A. Just, if people want things that are helpful, like someone would say, "Hey, I want to learn how to start a gin business." And we go, "Okay, we're going to bring Sam on. We're going to ask him questions." And, you can do that at the end. So I think just the daily accountability alone. And then that group that you're with, you also have a daily Facebook group where you can be writing questions, encouraging other people in your group. And that's actually one of the things that brings agency, is a supportive unit around you. You have some of that built in with Emma traveling the world with you. A lot of digital nomads are on their own. So having that tribe of people that are like, "Hey, you can do this," or "I have this resource," or "I know this or that," or whatever, that tribe aspect I think is really huge as well.
Awesome. So for $99 a month, you're getting the daily accountability where you log on each morning, or I suppose the night before, and you set what you're planning to get to do for that day.
Yep.
Then at the end of each day, you mark how it's gone. And then how is that followed up? Will you be monitoring it?
Yeah. So for now, I'm like right now in December of 2019, I'm the only coach. I actually have coaches that want to work for me. So there'll be other people in the future. We're just kind of figuring out how to make sure we have quality coaches like we've talked about. But yeah, your coach every day, Monday through Friday, is checking in and like, "Hey, Sam, what happened yesterday?" And you might be, "Oh, I was throwing up. I had bad food on the plane," or whatever. But then also, if you don't get things done, you put a note in there of like, and that note is really more for you. Why didn't I get done? Well, if it's, I spent 3 hours watching YouTube videos today about Gary Vaynerchuk saying to get out there and do it. And we're like, okay, let's cut off the YouTube, let's actually make it happen. But yeah, I think that alone is worth it. That piece, that daily accountability piece. So.
And then on top of that, you also put together, you're calling it a tribe, which I suppose is just a group of people who are in a similar situation to you, where you're holding each other accountable, you're creating that fellowship.
Yeah.
That often it can be quite lonely if you're the only person you know
Yeah.
trying to start one of these slightly different style businesses.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Now, finally, what I wanted to talk about was, and actually the reason I really got you on, the selfish reason, was I wanted to get your wisdom on a few
Sure.
on a few things, and particularly, you've been out here for 10 years, and something I've been thinking about quite a lot is, as effectively a full-time traveller, someone who's probably got a bit too much money, a bit too much free time, and in different countries, how can we leave the best impact on where we're going? How can we leave the best footprints?
Yeah.
So, let's start with that time. You're saying you want the people who go on Please Kick My Butt to end up, working 17 to 20 hours a week on the money-making side, and then have free time for the stuff they're, I suppose, interested in, or their passion projects, or doing good, or whatever it is. So what should I be doing with my other 20 hours?
Yeah. Well, obviously that's highly specific to the people, but I think just in general, there's three things that come to mind right away. You should be learning and growing as a human being, right? Like some of that time should be on your own personal development. Some of that time should be spent serving others in some way. And that's really, I think, what the heart of what you're asking is, like, what are those ways that I can serve others? And then the third thing, just being in community, like, because and real conversations, really helping people, really being in depth in relationship with others, which can be a little bit hard when you're on the road. But I think if you make a priority of it, like the study of, this longitudinal study that's been going on for 75 years from Harvard, where they talk about relationships as the biggest predictor of not only happiness in life, but also success. And if we don't have those deeper relationships, I think we struggle. But getting back to the piece of doing, like you're really good at business, and there might be ways that you could help people. And if you really love it, like maybe you're doing good is actually helping people with business. And it doesn't necessarily need to be an impoverished person in the village. We see those kind of things of like people, helping someone at an orphanage. We ran an orphanage for 6 years in Cambodia, and we actually almost never allowed outsiders to come in because we didn't want it to be a show. We didn't want it, we want, it was the normal life for these kids, and we didn't want, anything out there. And there's some orphanages that are like, unfortunately, they are like a show, and there's people in all the time, and the kids have to kind of act one way. But I think as you wake up in the morning, like, and for your listeners, wherever they are in the world, like right now, they can do good in the next 90 seconds. They could go, who's somebody that I haven't thanked? A coach, a teacher, a mom. Like your mom, you have not told your mom that you loved her, and she is never going to tire of you saying, thank you for changing my diapers. Thank you for feeding me. Thank you for doing this. We can wake up in the morning and do good all day. And the reality is, I think it needs to be more a part of our life, but we are busy. We're too busy in today's world. We're too distracted. And so we don't focus enough on doing the good. I think if the average human being spent 10 minutes a day focused on doing good things, writing one letter to somebody, taking the time to be kind with the person at the checkout counter, just being good as a way of life, I think it would change the world, And for me, like I'm personally a Christian, and so I try to model my life after Jesus Christ, and that's actually why I ended up here in Thailand. I thought, how could I make a difference? And in light of that, I also try to think about how can I encourage people today? What can I do to bless somebody? What can I give to this person? How can I pour out myself for the sake of others? How can I say yes to someone? My wife last year, her desire was to like say yes as much as possible to our kids. And so I think specifically, not getting down even lower, when we're in these environments, when we're in places where we do have disposable income, and a lot more income maybe than the population of that country, I think it's things like, you do hire someone, to come clean your house, because you're providing employment for someone. And, like the studies show, when you hire someone to do things that you don't want to do, it actually does, that is one way you can actually buy happiness in your own life. I think it's really good if if you're going to be in a country a while, to get connected to a project, a person, something where you know them personally. So we actually had coffee, or we were at a digital nomad gathering at Food for Thought in Chiang Mai, and Bay runs Bay's Cafe out of that. He was my first assistant here in Chiang Mai. And so one of the things I'm always telling, like in giving people agency, I'm always telling people they can do the dream that's in their heart. And so Bay is like, he was, I'd ask him how, what do you want to do? And as we got to know each other over the course of a year, he's like, I want to run a cafe. And I was like, well, Bay, you can do it. You can run a cafe. Like, you can make the coffee. You're already good at that. He already was like sourcing beans from different places in the city, and his coffee's great if you've ever been there. And one day he came to me and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to quit and I'm going to start my cafe. Can I have a loan? And I was like, oh man, I wish, he was great working with, a great person. But so one of the ways that I helped him was I gave him a loan to get started, and to his credit, a year and 4 months later, he paid me back. And actually when I saw him, when we were there 2 weeks ago, I said, how's it going, Bay? And he's like, oh, I'm still working too hard, and the business is good, but I'm working too much. And so we're actually meeting tomorrow. And I said, Bay, I'll give you the friend discount, free business coaching in exchange for one of your coffees. So tomorrow, 10:30, I'm going to be there having a coffee with Bay and doing some business coaching. And for me, that's a way to give back, to help somebody here with a skill that I have that can help him make his life better. And so that's a way that I'm giving back, tomorrow. So I think part of it's money, part of it's time and energy, but just, I think if you're on the lookout for the good things that you can do, you'll see them.
That's something I struggle a bit with when I see inequality or children begging on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Or you see some really horrendous stuff when you're traveling around
Absolutely.
other countries, and not knowing how to react.
Yeah.
Is quite strong. It's quite a difficult thing for me.
Yeah.
For instance, when we were in Kuala Lumpur, there's a famous street food market there where they have people with really serious disabilities effectively begging or singing. And it affected particularly Emma so much that like she didn't really want to leave the house for a couple of days afterwards, because it was such a shock. And I think part of it is not knowing what we can do to help people like that.
Yeah.
So something that we've decided to do is every country we go to, we won't give to beggars, or we won't try and interfere personally, but we will find a charity in that country who are supporting the thing that we saw that shocked us.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, is that a good way to go?
Yeah.
Should we be giving money to beggars? Should we? Because we don't want to be part of the problem.
Right, totally.
And that's something that I'm still trying to work out, and I'm really interested in hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really good to not give to the beggars. In most places, like there's probably some countries where they have nothing and there's no effective mechanism. But like Siem Reap, Cambodia, for instance, there's beggars everywhere. There's food for those people. There's resources for them. There's places that will train them in jobs. But like a lot of the world, people are like, well, I'm just going to beg because it's easier than working, right? And that's not always the case. I think there are some, it'd be good to research a country ahead of time. And some places people might say, these people have nothing else. I like the Old Testament method in the Bible. It talked about providing for the poor, but the way that the wealthy were to do that was they were to leave grain at the edges of the fields. And if grain fell while they were harvesting the field, they weren't supposed to pick up and get the little pieces that had fallen on the ground. They were to leave that for the poor. And so in that way, the poor in the community were provided for. Now, the equivalent in today's world is that, okay, if you're wealthy and you have stuff, welfare and the different things that we have in Western countries, it's like we would go harvest the grain, thresh it, turn it into food, and deliver it to the person's door while they're watching cable TV. And that isn't a good method either, right? But yeah, there's really effective charities and nonprofits that are meeting the worst of situations. Getting clean water. Every human being on the planet should have clean water. They don't right now. That's a great thing. No human on the planet should be enslaved. People are right now, working for those things, getting people jobs, helping them to get training, all of those things are great. And health, like what Bill Gates, I think they've said he's saved over 2 million lives just with eradicating disease. What a great legacy, to be like, yeah, we're going to get rid of this disease. But there's things that you can do right in front of you, that are huge. I think those things that tug at our hearts, yeah, find a charity, do a little bit of research. If there's things where people personally, like that's even better. Like I know of organizations that are working in Chiang Mai that no one even knows about. They don't have a website, they don't market, maybe they're run by Thais. And so like one of the things that we do as an organization is we're on the third year of funding a girl for university that came out of a trafficking situation. We just helped to provide a hair salon for another person, and she has 2 kids that she got during those years of working in the sex industry. I don't know particularly if she chose to get into it or fell into it or was tricked into it, but she came out of it. She has kids, and so we're like, okay, let's this organization. I've never even met her personally, but I heard about the need, and so I went to some people and said, hey, could we help fund this lady to have a hair salon? So I think there's things like that. When you're in a country, you start to hear of some of those stories and some of those situations, where you can make a difference, and like the thing I love about the girl getting education is like every single penny given is going right to her education. There's no overhead for anything. It's like it's going right to the problem.
Awesome. And what I think I'll do after this is ask you for a list of some of those charities,
Sure.
and I'll just include them in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If anyone's interested.
Yeah.
So finally, kind of circling back onto the money side of it.
Yeah.
And from a business point of view.
Sure.
Is if you learn about online business, one of the things is really suggested is to take advantage of the cheap labour in other countries.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that we should be doing? I think I already know the answer because you spoke about hiring a cleaner, and actually that is beneficial.
Yeah.
And so should we, if we're living here, should we be hiring a cleaner? Should I be hiring a very cheap personal assistant?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably the best help that people can have is good, productive work, right? Like if you provide a good job for someone and decent pay, and they're coming home and you're giving them value, they have dignity, all of those things, like that is great stuff. I have a friend, Matt, who moved to India, and his business, they have like 3 salespeople in the States, and they have like 130 people that they've hired in India. And they're doing leadership training and development and all these other things, helping families when they're struggling. And so they're there and they're making a big difference. I was actually speaking at a conference in Silicon Valley a couple months ago, and they had the CEO of VMware. His name is Pat Gelsinger. It's like a $65 billion company. And one of the things that he said that really stuck with me was, we want to do good business. Like we want to treat our people well, make a profit, but we also want to design our business for good. And here's a guy in the tech industry who's going, we want the very design of our business to actually be good for the people that we're working, that we're helping, or that are our customers, or all of those kind of things. So I think, hire people, don't take advantage of them. Don't pay them like nothing that's not going to help them. But there's also a time to pay people a little bit while they're learning a skill, like internships and those kind of things. Like, I think treat people as their situation deserves, and give them hope that they can gain a skill and go to the next step. So I think, do what you can.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's something that we feel quite uncomfortable about, is paying $4 an hour.
Yeah.
Because we're comparing it to how much we'd pay someone back in England.
Yeah.
And so it's good to hear your point of view on that.
Yeah, and if you think about it, so in my time in Thailand, the minimum wage went from $5 a day to $10 a day.
Wow.
So just, I think that was 7 years ago. So you think $4 an hour, you feel bad about that. That is that is well above the average wage in Thailand. So part of it is being mindful of the situation. Yeah, is someone in London going to take a job at $4 an hour? Probably not. Would someone in Thailand work for $3 an hour? Maybe. And that might be a pretty good wage for them. Like that is you can I mean, from living here, you can fund a family on $3 an hour in Thailand. I probably don't live like that with my leather satchel and MacBook and those kind of things, but that's the dilemma, is just kind of putting yourself and going, what would help them,
Definitely. And so, just to end up, I think I want to conclude by saying that a lot of people see being a digital nomad as a very selfish thing. It's all about me, it's all about the travel and experience new things. Whereas I think what you've done and what a few other people are doing is actually using the benefits of being able to start a digital online business to be able to fund stuff like missionary work, which once upon a time would have been all about fundraising trips around Western countries.
Yeah.
Now you can, with not that many hours a week, earn a decent wage for where you are, and then free up that rest of the time to do the stuff you actually care about, whether that is missionary work or whether you're a lazy slob like me and you just want to play video games all day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like my life, I think about business, adventure, and mission. And so, I love to travel. It's kind of in my genes. I love business and what that can do. I think it can really be a force for good in the world. And then mission, like, I think I'm particularly created to inspire others, challenge others, encourage others. And so a lot of my life is just, how do I help people? Like Bay, like I have 50 stories like that in my life of just somebody that I helped push to the next level. And maybe it's just a word, or maybe I've journeyed with them for 2 or 3 years. But, I think when you get to the end of your life, you need those times of hobbies and things that we enjoy and that kind of stuff. But when we get to the end of our life, we're not going to care whether we were awesome at Fortnite or whatever, but did our life matter in the lives of others, And so, for me, it's reading or watching a video or just being in nature. I use those times to relax. But I'm trying to think about, like, how can I make somebody else's life better today?
Awesome. And what a great legacy. Well, thank you, buddy, for coming on. That's been really inspiring, as I'm sure everyone has appreciated. And it's great to hear some of these stories and answer some of my questions. If we can find you and we want to sign up to your service, pleasekickmybutt.com. And if you want that discount, you can go pleasekickmybutt.com/lazy for $99 a month. And there's a free course you've put on there as well.
Yeah.
And then what I'll also do in the show notes, I'll put links to all that stuff and anything we talked about today, including the charities that Buddy has either started or worked with or think are worth supporting.
Yeah, I think we should take a picture too and put it on the show notes of this lovely studio that we're in after we're done.
We'll do it. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great.
And goodbye.